Welcome to my super type A attempt at being Zen, the podcast. My name is Risha Yorke, and I will be your host. If you are overworked, overtired, overstretched, overwhelmed, and just over it, you are in the right place. We like to say we are currently working towards Zen-ish. I'm thrilled that you've joined us. Let's see who will be supporting us on our path to Zen today. Hello and welcome back to my super type A attempt at being Zen. I am your host, as always, Risha Yorke, and today is a super special day because I have my bestie on the show, and I'm really excited to have her here. So I'm delighted and overjoyed and all the other fun words to introduce Ms. Kathleen Pollard. And I'm going to give her a moment to introduce herself. Yay! Welcome, Kathleen.
Yay! Thank you so much, Risha. It's wonderful to be on the show. Thank you for having me. My name is Kathleen Pollard. I always struggle to describe myself because I do multiple things, but I am an actress, and I also work in fundraising and city development, philanthropy. And we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say how long on the air.
And suddenly I'm really old. I mean, since university.
Since university. Yeah. So you guys just figure out how long you think that is.
And I mean, I'm going back to university, so that could be today, but it's not.
Yeah. Then it's not. Long enough to be this close. I'll put it that way.
So I'm thrilled that you joined me. I've been kind of bugging Kathleen since I started this podcast to be a guest because I thought, A, it would be really, really fun. But also, I feel like you and I share a certain level of this type A-edness. And so I thought it might be fun to kind of debrief on that. And you know me really well, and I know you really well. So I thought we'd probably get into some pretty interesting conversations around it. So why don't you tell the audience how it is that you relate to the moniker type A?
So interesting. So growing up, I have a very type A mother, and it was she referred to herself that way. My dad referred to her that way. It was just known that was her personality. She was very type A. She was very organized, very rules-based, very she was in charge. And when I was growing up, especially as a teenager, I really rebelled against that. I wasn't a natural type A for most of my life, I would say. I was a bit of a messy kid. My room would be a bit sloppy. I'd forget things on the bus, and I just kind of lived in this daydream world. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that what they say about you turning into your mother, as women, we turn into our mothers. And as much as I always was just like, well, that's not going to happen to me, we couldn't be more different, it's shocking.
Right. I feel the exact same way. I think I hit that realization a little earlier than you did, but absolutely through my teens and early 20s, I was like, we are not the same person. We are so different. Black and white, oil and vinegar. And then it's like, oh, actually.
Oh, that is what I inherited from you.
Yeah. And you know what? There's so many benefits to that.
Yeah. I've accepted it, and I've come to embrace it, even because my mom was a force to be reckoned with. She's so organized. I always made fun of her keeping lists. I keep so many lists now. There's nothing that makes me happier than checking something off my list.
Right.
I can't believe I'm saying that in public. Yeah.
No, but it's true. There's my mother was the same, very hyper organized, very driven, and type A in maybe a different way. She was maybe a little messier than I was. I was a lot cleaner and neater and tidier, but she was we had a lot in common that way. And you think about that, like now it's like a way I honor her memory, but
Mhm.
also for me, it's like, oh, because she'd figured it out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like there's
Mhm.
a certain level of efficiency in life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And especially I appreciate that, especially now because I live so far away from her. My folks are in Vancouver, as you know, and so I'm on my own out here in Toronto. And it's just there's kind of a weird comfort to it too. Like
Yeah.
when I catch myself doing something that is like her or that I know I've inherited from her, it's like, oh, thanks, Mom.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
needed that.
yeah.
Especially at tax time, it's like, oh, thank God, because they don't teach you those skills.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, and it's funny because you come by your type A-ness. You're very fastidious about the way things are in your space and how they look and appear. And I love that because your place is very curated. And that's
Thank
like
you.
my dream. I would love that, but I have two small children, so, I can't curate shit around here. I
Yeah.
try. I'm working on it in my bedroom, trying to keep my bedroom neat and tidy and everything in its place. But yeah, I mean, there's so much comfort and sense of calm for me.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, thank you. That might even have been part of the genesis of my now more type A, you know, um, tendency. Because when I moved out here from Vancouver, I was completely on my own. Um, didn't have a single piece of furniture. I had books, clothes, and mementos, anything that I could fit into my car, basically, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I, for the first time in my life, started from scratch. I wasn't sharing a space with a roommate or a partner like I had before.
Yeah.
And so I had this opportunity. I realized that I was faced with a blank slate. And I mean, the first few months that I was out here were pretty terrifying. I thank God I had you. I know I like
And our 2 month
less.
sleepover.
Yeah, yeah. Our 2 month sleepover, you helped me exactly. You helped me kind of like find my way into the city and were there for me in a huge way. So thank you.
Of course, always.
Yeah, but yeah, it was this really interesting exercise where I just kind of was really deliberate about how I set up my space. And there was, like I started with some things on Craigslist and then eventually I'd replace those with other things. But I think it took about 2 years for me to fully furnish my apartment in a way that felt authentic.
Yeah.
And because I didn't have like old furniture that came from an aunt or an uncle that I had to find a space for, or, sharing dishes and you live with people and you have like dishes that are made up of six different sets of people. And
Yeah.
it was just a really, and I think that I leaned into it as a way to counter that loneliness and that sense of void. Like suddenly I'm in a brand new city with a brand new focus. I'm alone. And it was empowering and exhilarating, but it was also really scary. And I think this was a way that I found my way into that
I
to
like
make
that
it
you're
less
saying this
scary.
because I think a lot of our type A tendencies come from a need to control something because there's a lot of things that are out of our control,
Yes,
right?
definitely. Yeah.
And so if you can control your environment and your space and the things that you're surrounding yourself with, or it's part of why I think that whole spark joy cleaning movement became
Marie
so
Kondo.
popular,
Yeah.
Marie
Yeah.
Kondo, because it's like you have control over your space. You have control over the stuff that lives here, the things that you choose to keep. This is an actual thing you can do, and people feel overwhelmed by their stuff and they feel overwhelmed by their space, or the cleanliness becomes an issue, or right. And if you have the ability to control that, it offers a decent amount of comfort. I mean, it certainly
Yeah.
does for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, my cats decided to join the
Oh,
conversation
that's okay.
momentarily.
Hi, Tucker.
Yeah, I love Marie Kondo's philosophy because I think what it is at the core for me too, like I'm a creative person, I always have been. And it's about turning your stuff from just being stuff into being these totems and these things that just really represent you.
Yeah.
And when you can arrange things in a way, like even the way she folds her clothes, like it stops being just t-shirts in a drawer, and you look at it and you feel that joy because you're like, this is me. This is me. These are my colors.
Yeah.
This is my style. This is how I express myself. And I think I just kind of extended that into my living space as like this expressive extension of me. And I love that idea.
Well, it's a really beautiful exercise in mindfulness, right? Because
Yeah,
you're taking these moments where it's like, okay, what does this mean to me? And does it mean anything? And if it doesn't mean anything, is it just taking up space? And if it's just taking up space, then isn't it just clutter? And isn't it just cluttering my mind? And isn't it just cluttering my ability to clearly see what I want, what I'm after, what my path is? And I know that's like extrapolating to the point where it's like, who am I and where am I going? But it's so true, right?
yeah,
If you're cluttered and you're feeling overwhelmed and all this shit is everywhere and it's stuff that doesn't represent you, you look around your space and things feel foreign.
exactly.
It makes it harder for you to be really clear on who you are and what is important to you, right? But otherwise, you're right. They can be totems, they can be reminders, they can be empowering.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And especially during the pandemic, or like this new kind of model that we switched to, I work from home, right now 3 days a week. When you occupy your space that much,
Yes.
I'm not going to school, I'm not going to work every day. I'm in my space every day. And if I can't look around and feel at home,
Yeah.
then I think it would feel even more lonely and
Yes.
blank. And yeah,
Because you're in the wrong place,
yeah, exactly. It's like something's not, this isn't right. This isn't my space. Yeah. Which
right?
is also why, like, I love traveling. I love going on vacation. I love coming to hang out with you and Ricky and spending a weekend. Like, I love that. But there's something about coming back home
Oh,
too.
yeah.
And you sort of walk in and you're just like, oh, okay, I'm home.
Yeah.
And it has taken a while for me to call Toronto home. And I even say that with a tinge of guilt because so
Yeah.
much of my life was in Vancouver before then. I spent like half my life in Vancouver. And to be able to call this city home is huge. It's a big step, and
Yeah. It is a big
that's no
deal. You
small
do
part of
have
it.
to start pronouncing it as Toronto. There's no T at the end.
Oh, right, Toronto,
If you're
Toronto, right? Sorry,
so we're clear, like if this is gonna be your home, like
right.
adjust the
Get on board.
vernacular,
Toronto,
Kathleen.
Toronto, Toronto, Toronto,
Toronto.
Toronto,
Yeah.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no O at the beginning and there's no T at the end. Just,
Right.
it's
Just yeah,
Toronto. Yeah.
Toronto. Got
Yeah.
it. Good reminder.
Well, I mean, I was super grateful when you moved out here because obviously, like, having your best friend so far away super sucks,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And now it's just a 90-minute drive.
It's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that you guys are so close, and I love that we didn't ever really disconnect. It's not like we fell out of touch, but
No, not
to
really.
to really like physically reconnect with you,
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, especially that first couple months I was living with you was like, yes, I miss you.
Was so fun, right?
It was
Like my
fun.
husband still is like, if she needs to ever come live with us, that's completely okay. Like there's only two people, and I won't mention the other person because I don't know if they want their name mentioned, but there's only two people that could like live in our house 100% of the time and be fully accepted in my family, and you're one of them,
I am honored.
right?
High honor.
Like it's just a known fact around here. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's funny because the funny thing is, I have another best friend who is also, I would say, super type A, but in a completely different way,
Mm. Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I think all three of us have our own type A things, but they show themselves in different ways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that statement. Like, I'm just thinking, like, when I cook, it's chaos. It's beautiful chaos, but like, you look around my kitchen when I'm done and it's like, what happened in here?
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
And so when we cook together, it's actually really fun because I feel like we do the same thing,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're totally on
right?
the same page. Yeah.
And it's like having someone who understands my brain and is inside my head. But there's also a certain level of type A in that because you and I both have a strong understanding of what we're doing when we're in the kitchen. And so, you know, I don't have to boss you around. Like it's not a sous chef situation. I don't have to be like, cut this up. Now I need that. Like you just intuitively know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And same vice versa. Like, I'm like, what are you making? Oh, okay, I'll do this. Like, I just can make the decision. And there's almost a relief in that,
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
right? And
Yeah.
I've explained this to my husband before. Like, part of the reason I try not to kick people out of my kitchen. It's something I actively try not to do, especially the kids, because I don't want them to feel like they're not allowed to be here and they're not allowed to learn. But it is a little chaotic when I'm in the kitchen and I have a plan and everything is timed out a certain way and I'm making whatever I'm making and combining whatever I'm combining and things have to be done in a certain order for everything to kind of come out hot at the same time or be presented the way I want it to be presented. And if people on this podcast haven't clued in yet, I am a pretty high level foodie. Like I love food, I love to cook, I'm obsessive about it. In fact, I actually signed up in the last couple of weeks to compete with our local chef Melanie. Um, she is the winner of Chopped Canada season. I don't remember the season. I don't want to say the wrong one, but Melanie won Chop Canada and she is running a local home chef cook competition and I entered my name to compete.
Yes. Oh
So
my God. I love everything about this.
I am
You
very
are
excited.
such a good cook. I
I'm
love
very
your
excited.
cooking. I love
It'll
your
be
baking.
fun. I will go home with my tail between my legs if I lose out, but that's okay. This is my year of fun. And so I'm
Yeah.
just anything that comes up that sounds like it'd be fun, I'm on board. So, I try not to kick people out of my kitchen. I get very obsessive and driven, but there's only like, I think 3 people, 4 people, maybe 5 in the world that I can cook with, and you're one of them. It's like you, my cousins, because they get it, my mother when she was alive, and my stepdad, because
Yeah.
cooked with my mother. So he knew, like, Hup to, this is what you do, right?
Yeah.
My cousins get it because they grew up in the same sort of culture and household and understanding and we know kind of the same things and so they just do things
Yeah.
and it's a relief. It's like a relief of stress. I don't have to tell people what has to be done next. They just do it.
Intuitively. Yeah. Yeah. That is a really cool symbiosis when that happens.
It's
I, yeah, I agree. We cook really well together. I've cooked with other people too. We have a particular dynamic that works really well.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
nice to have that and in I think a world where when you're super type A and you want things a certain way, if someone's like, "Oh, I'll cut the carrots." It's like, "Well, how are you going to cut the carrots?" Like right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm making a lamb stew, I want them cut in medallions. And if I'm making, say, Thai food, I want them to be
Like on an angle or like,
yeah,
yeah.
or maybe with my little wavy thing, or maybe actually I want you to julienne them because I'm going to throw them in with noodles or like
Yeah.
I'm very specific about it, but if it's you or my cousins or somebody that is familiar with the food I'm cooking and my kitchen and how I roll, I don't have to say anything. They just do it. Otherwise, I'm showing someone how to julienne carrots and they're slowing me down.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing worse for a type A person than to be like, have something in the way of achieving the goal.
It's like
Because,
but can I just
yeah.
give me the knife? Give me the knife. Give me the
You're doing it. It's just, I'll show you.
knife. And especially with little kids, like I'm trying to be patient and be like, yeah, okay, you can help.
You're sparking a lot of thoughts in me with this conversation. And I think ultimately what I've come to understand about type A personalities, and not even so much about myself, but about my mom,
Yep.
as I mentioned before, is that it's always about a pathway to happiness, a pathway to fun, a pathway to good, like a good outcome. The reason that people are type A, the reason that they're hyper vigilant, maybe sometimes controlling, what have you, is because they want the best possible outcome.
Yes.
And it took me years to understand that that's what my mom was doing, because it felt like discipline. It felt like she was just criticizing me all the time. It felt like
Yes.
nobody could ever do anything right. It felt like we were living under the weight of this like tyranny where she's like, things have to be done this way. And it wasn't until I kind of got older and found my own path into this type A mindset, that I understood like, oh, she was trying to make sure that everything was perfect for us.
Yes.
We didn't have to worry about things, that we had all of our needs met, that by her controlling a process, we could enjoy the outcome of that
Yeah.
process. And that was a huge revelation
Yeah.
because
They're very work hard, play hard people.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but you have to work hard to play hard.
yeah,
Like that's the reward, right?
yeah,
And I say
exactly.
they, like I'm not included in that group. I'm absolutely included in that group. But like it's funny because, we talk about this in Lead Without Permission, the course that I run. It's 12-week confidence and leadership course. You took it, so
I did.
Uh,
Fantastic course.
um, but there's a point in there where we talk about that, right? Where it's sort of like, you're going to set these goals. And the path to the goal is just as important as the goal. But sometimes you got to do some things along the path that don't seem super exciting to get the end part. And then also that type A personality, they already know that. So they do things like if you invite them on, say, a vacation somewhere, they're going to do things like print out an itinerary, make sure they know where the bus stop is, figure
Yes,
out what the check in and check out times are, double check that they have a ride to the airport, understand like they're going to check all those details,
absolutely.
which is tedious and can be frustrating. And people are like, what is your damage? We're on vacation. But their damage is that they don't want lost luggage, misunderstanding at the hotel, miss the
Yeah,
flight, like
yeah,
anything that could ruin that fun, exciting vacation time.
yeah,
They want to do their Girl Guides best to make sure that that doesn't happen.
yeah.
Right? And some people are like, that's so controlling and obnoxious. And other people are like, oh, thank God we have one of those people around because without them, this would
Well,
have been a disaster.
that's just it. Like, I don't inherently, I've gotten a lot better at it, but I don't, you know me, I'm not inherently an organized like person who predicts scenarios and thinks, oh well, I'm going to need this for that. Like I'm the one who gets caught in the rain without a raincoat all the time. Like I,
Or runs out
you
of
know,
gas on the way to my house.
runs out of gas on the way to my best friend's house within a kilometer of where she lives. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a fun day.
Like in the world of
Right,
I know my car and just to be safe, you're a I know my car person, right? Where you're just like, it's
right.
fine. I'll get there on fumes. And I'm like, oh God, no, I'm just to be safe. Like,
Yeah,
oh no, my car's at a quarter tank of gas. God forbid it should ever go lower than that. Like that,
right.
I do not allow that to happen.
Yeah. Whereas I'm like, oh, the light's only been on since yesterday. I could, I'll pop over here first and then I'll get gas. And
That
twice
gives me
it's
so much
backfired.
anxiety.
Well, twice it's backfired. Once on the way to you and once on the way home from somewhere. And that horrible feeling of like grinding to a halt. On the way to you was scary though, because I was on the highway. Luckily, it was a quiet stretch of highway and it was much closer to you. And I wasn't on the 401.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a moment. Haven't done
Classic
that since
Kathleen.
though. Yeah, classic.
Classic.
So like I have those tendencies. Those are ingrained in me too. Like I've always just kind of been a bit of a I'm going to say daydreamy, sort of like live in the moment, kind of, creative, like flighty
You
person.
value freedom.
Absolutely, I do. Yeah,
And you know what?
absolutely.
We have that in common too. Because I
Mhm.
do too. It's
Oh
just
my God, yes.
different ways.
It presents in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I
And
think that's why we get each other, right? It's sort of
yeah,
like, I get why you ran out of gas because you're like, yeah, let's get out of here. I don't want to stop for gas. That's fine. I'll get it on the way up. It'll happen when we're there. No big deal. Let's just go. Let's go. Whereas I'd be like, I'm going to prep everything, make sure like gas is like, I fill my gas tank going 30 minutes south to Barrie. Like, I just make sure that like
right.
that's how I am.
Yeah.
However, I will do things like we're getting a puppy in a week. I know.
Oh
I'm
my
so
God.
excited.
That's so cute.
I can't
Yeah.
handle it. His name is YOLO.
Ah, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Right.
Yes.
And it was literally that. Like everybody in the house has been begging me for a dog. Like, can we get one? Can we get one? And I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, you know what? Yeah, we're getting a dog. I'm gonna message the people. It's gonna happen. You only live once.
Yep.
What are you gonna do? And so my freedom stuff comes from stuff like that. Or I signed up for a master's program this week. This week.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna pay for that. I don't have a clue. I'm assuming the universe is going to deliver.
Yes. It absolutely will, because I feel like this is a culmination of the journey that you've been on for the past few years. And I think it makes absolute sense that you do this.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll
Like,
get figured out.
not to downplay the importance of money or the hold that money has on our lives, but it should never prevent you from, you know, doing that thing that,
Well, that's it. It's like OSAP exists for a reason. If that's what
yeah,
I need to do, that's what I do. If I can't do that, I'll get a loan through the bank. If I can't get a loan through the bank, I'll take the courses as I can afford them on credit.
Mhm.
And I've got 5 years to complete the degree. Like it is what it is, right? But
Yeah,
I think you and I come at that freedom place from different angles, but I think that's why we completely understand each other because there's a certain element of I like things a certain way, and this is important to me, and this is where my type A stuff lives. There's a
yeah,
certain element of fuck it.
hmm,
Right.
yeah,
Let's do what I want, when I want, how I want. That's how this life is going to go.
yeah,
And then there's also a very empathetic, extremely emotional and emotionally intelligent part of this too that you and I have in common. And so when all of those things come to play together, right? They
yeah,
obviously come out in different ways, but we have these moments where you can be like, okay, like I think it's hilarious that you run out of gas on the highway, but because I'm super type A, someone's showing up to save you,
absolutely. Yeah,
right? Like the safety net is there,
yeah, absolutely.
right?
Or if you're planning a girls' weekend or something,
Yeah.
I feel confident that I can arrive having prepared myself, knowing that details are being looked after.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, um, does it ever feel? How do I phrase this question? So I remember doing. Okay, maybe I'll phrase it with a story, and you can edit it as you see fit.
Sure.
Um, I remember doing a play when we were in university, actually just after graduating years ago, um, with dear Dylan Robinson and a wonderful dramaturg, Heidi Taylor, who essentially came on board as our assistant stage manager or stage manager in the end, but she was more like a production manager. And because Dylan and I were so new at creating theater, and not just creating theater, not just the creation part of it, like the actual business part of
The
it,
business
like
side. Yeah.
renting the space. Do we need permits? What vehicle do we sell tickets through? Like, how do we get bums in seats? Like, oh, we're supposed to advertise. Okay, well, who's going to print the posters? So should we give them to the actors to put up around town? Like all these things that we had never done before because it was our first time.
Yeah.
And because Heidi was so good at it, we kept going to her for advice and for like, and neither of us were trying to burden her or load her up with tasks that she hadn't signed up for. We just didn't see it that way. We were just like, oh my God, okay, so you made that suggestion. How do you do it? How do you do it? And then I think she more often than not tended to be like, okay, well, let me look into that for you. Let me do that for you. And we had a meeting and she was like, I can't do that. Like, you guys are giving me way too much. And we were both like, oh my God, we hadn't realized that we had been delegating to you. You seemed to be so good at doing it.
Yeah.
And you knew the answer every time. And we hadn't done it before. And we were just trying to like lean on your knowledge and your expertise. We didn't realize that we were exhausting.
Yeah.
And so I guess therein lies my question is where's that balance between I'm happier when I'm in charge
Yeah.
and I'm the burden of everything succeeding is on me and I've had it.
Yeah. That's a great question. And it's one I think I try and ask through this podcast and the course, my Super Type A attempt at being Zen, because it's something I constantly struggle with. There's an element of I'll just do it myself, but then there's also a level where that's not healthy. Like being hyper independent and not trusting other people to do things to your standards
Mm,
or your levels can be unhealthy. You're taking on too much responsibility. And one of the main um I guess, characteristics of a type A person is that they embrace responsibility. They rise to meet it. They want it. They love it. And they want to be part of the gang. Like one of their top needs is a sense of belonging. So, when you offer that to them, like, hey, you're great at this. Can you help me? They want to say yes because
yeah,
A, they are great at it. And B, they wanna be part of the group, they wanna be included, they don't wanna be ostracized or kept out, so it's sort of their way of remaining at the helm or remaining an integral part of what's going on in the group. What they sometimes overlook and forget is that burnout is a real thing.
very real. Yeah.
You can't say yes to everything. And if you're listening and you're like, "Oh shit, that's me." Yeah, I know. It's me too. It's crazy. Like, and I do it. I do it all the time. My mother used to say to me all the time, "Why must you do everything at the exact same time?" And I don't know the answer to that other than I don't know. I just feel at like my best self when I can do all the things. And when it's going well and things are clicking by the way they're supposed to, I'm like, "Ha, ha, ha, look at me." Like I'm making it happen. Things are happening. But, and because I'm sure I've called you crying in these moments where it's like there are moments where I'm like, shit, I can't anymore. I can't. It's too much. There's too
Yeah.
much. I'm
Yeah.
carrying too much. I've said yes to too much. I'm planning too much. I'm trying to do too much. I'm trying to be too much to too many people, too much for myself. My standards are too high. I haven't taken a moment to stop and say, okay, what are the real priorities here? What are the things that are the most important things that need to happen? Not that I want to happen,
Mhm, mhm,
right? And I'll
mhm.
tell you, like, having children was a huge fucking wake up call for me because these are uncontrollables that will remain uncontrollable the entire time they live in your home.
Right.
And I can't control the fact that there's yogurt all over my floor, like, once every 2 weeks. I can't control the fact, like, I have a 4-year-old. Accidents happen. What am I supposed to do? Like, read him the riot act when he knocks his cereal bowl over? It's gonna
Yeah.
happen. He's learning large motor skills, right? Like, I have to be understanding around that stuff. But it internally makes me feel crazy,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I get
So
that.
it's learning to prioritize and understand, like, I can rightfully be upset about this and have a standard here that I expect to be met. And then in other places, it's like, "Ooh, I think you're expecting a little much out of the situation."
Right.
And that's not fair. And you know what? Good on Heidi for being able to see her limitation and being like, you guys are asking too much of me. That is so emotionally intelligent. And frankly, God bless Heidi. I love her so much. Like,
Oh, she's
she
phenomenal.
is a highly intelligent, very emotionally intelligent human being. So, like, good on her for saying her truth. And more of us, super type A, highly competent people need to do that. We need to pause and be like, hi, I know it looks like I can do this, but I've hit my limit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're doing this. People take advantage of us in workplaces all the time. Like, I have regularly been hired to replace several people,
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
right? Or they
Yeah.
hire me, they realize how competent and efficient I am, and they let go several people. And suddenly those responsibilities become mine. And because
Mhm.
when you're type A, you rise to the responsibility, you're like, yeah, team player pitching in. But that's not sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true.
Right? Like, we
Yeah.
can sprint for a while. And if you need a type A to sprint, you're going to get a lot. Like, we can produce a lot in a short amount of time. But if you ask us to sprint the marathon, you're just like, that's burnout.
Yeah, totally.
And frankly, I have never been able to function at that level again. I just
No,
can't.
no, nor should you.
Yeah. My
I,
limits are not what they used to be. In my 20s and my early 30s, I could do more with less, on less sleep, with less resources. And now that I'm into my 40s, it's like, no.
yeah. Well, because I mean, it's a rite of passage, right? Um, you test things out when you're young. You have unlimited stamina. You're figuring out yourself. And then when we're at the age that we are, you're just like, you know what? No, I've earned this. Like,
Yeah.
I can see this for what it is. I can, I'm a little more shrewd
Yes,
when
and
it comes to
beyond
myself.
earning it, you hit the nail on the head with stamina. Like, I just can't function at that level anymore, even if I want to.
Yeah.
I can't. After, uh, almost nervous breakdown, 2 kids, COVID, my mother and mother-in-law dying, a whole bunch of friends dying, grief, life's up and downs, fully remodeling a house all by myself with my husband. Like,
Yeah.
after all of these stresses, burning myself out at a job where I was working crazy amounts of hours, like, and at the same time running a theater company. What am I thinking? Like, those are 2 full-time jobs, right? You you start to realize, like, it's adrenal fatigue, right? It's like there's a point where
Yes.
no, like, I literally cannot. Sometimes I have to just go lay down. I know it's crazy, but sometimes I'm just done. Like, I can't anymore. I have to go and sleep for 20 minutes to function the rest of the day.
I love afternoon power naps.
Oh.
Oh, that's one of the best things about working from home.
You know what
Just
kills me is
just a 20
when
minute
my kids
siesta.
refuse to sleep. I'm like looking at them like, you don't understand. All I want in life is sleep. That's all I want in life. And like a good, restful sleep. And kids sleep like someone has drugged them. I don't understand how to get back to that kind of sleep where you're just like
Right.
literally dead to the world, flopped out.
Yeah. Kids can sleep anywhere in any position.
And they just take it for granted. They completely take it for, ew, I don't want to sleep. I want to stay up. I'm going to stay up all night. I'm like, you're not understanding how much you're going to wish you had this benefit of going to bed at 8 o'clock at night
Yeah.
in a warm, cozy bed
Yeah.
all by yourself. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Embrace it now. And they just look at me like I've lost my mind. Maybe I have. So we
in
were
the best
talking,
possible way.
right? We were talking, you and I, about how your need for order also came out through trauma. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too. So, like I said before, I think the kind of genesis of this type A tendency started when I moved here and I was alone. And the positive of that is that yes, I curated this beautiful space for myself. I'm really happy with it. It's creative. It feels like me. Um, on the flip side, I definitely have had, episodes of stress, anxiety, and depression. And I think it's more common, it's a more common aspect of adulthood than we're
Oh,
ever led to
yes,
believe,
a
especially
hundred
in
percent.
this day and age in society that we find ourselves in, pandemic, etc. So I've had some traumatic things happen in my life, as we all have. And I think it's part of my response to those traumatic events, the need for control
Yeah.
increases, but from like a place of real anxiety of like, if I don't X, then Y. And it's kind of I need to be okay.
Yes.
If I can't control this, I won't be okay.
It's a safety thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also your mind grasping, I think, for anchors, things that can
Yes.
stabilize you. But like in my case, it definitely has at times spilled over into like obsessive. And I don't want to just throw around the term, oh, I have OCD, because there are people that struggle with OCD. And with respect to that, like I don't have OCD. I've never been diagnosed with it, but I have moments of obsessive, like,
Compulsion.
compulsion to, I don't know, maybe it's like, well, I notice that the back corner of my bathroom floor is like dirty, and because I can't always get there, if if I'm in a place of like crisis, I'm fixating on what can I control, and I'll be
Yes.
on my hands and knees like scrubbing away at that corner for absolutely no reason. There's no
Yeah.
reason to do that. It's not unhygienic. It's not going to The world isn't going to come to an end if my bathroom floors aren't spotless.
But it feels that way.
But it feels that way, and it feels like, no, like the one thing I have is this space.
Yeah.
This is what I've done for myself. It's a symbol of what I've done for myself. What I've really done for myself is move across the country and establish a whole new life, and
You've done
and
so much more
spent
than this space.
so much
Yes.
more than this space. But like it
Been in
ever
an
I use
Oscar
it.
winning movie, by the way.
Thank you.
Gotten to work with Guillermo del Toro. No
Couple
big
times, yeah,
deal.
no big deal. Yeah, no, it's been amazing and humbling and incredible. I'm incredibly lucky. But you don't get validation from for being an actor. You don't get validation. You
No.
don't get feedback. You don't really get, apart from sometimes on set, you don't get that pat on the back or that like, oh, well, now what this will lead to is even more excellent. No,
Yeah.
it's peaks and valleys. There's people
Yeah.
who have won awards and then don't work for 5 years. Like,
Oh, I appreciate that. That's how it is working for yourself too. It's the exact same thing.
absolutely. It's a thankless job in a lot of ways.
And you
And
wear all
and
the hats.
yeah, I'm my own business manager. I'm my own fan club. I'm my own,
No, I'm your fan
you're my
club.
fan club. You're the president of the fan club. Thank you. No, but it is, you have to be very self-motivated to keep going. Not even get ahead, just keep going. Just do
Yeah.
it. Choose it every day. And so relating that back to kind of trauma, when you don't have validation for what you have succeeded at, this space, my home, is like I was saying, it's emblematic of my success because it's the first space I've lived in fully on my own.
Yeah.
I've fully designed it. I've fully, embodied it. It's for the first time in my life, this is what represents me. And
Yeah.
if it's out of place while I'm out of place emotionally and mentally, it feels horrible. Like I can't
Feels like something's
relax.
broken, right?
Something is broken, something is off. I can't. And so what do? I do the thing that I can control. I do the dishes. I do
Yeah.
the laundry. I sweep for the third
I
time
relate
that
to
day.
this. Yeah.
because it's like, well, if I can control my environment and my surroundings and this thing that I've done, it will feel like I've succeeded at something. It will feel like I've accomplished something. And it's a distraction
Yeah.
from what I'm not able to address emotionally or mentally in this moment.
Thank you for joining me for part 1 with Kathleen Pollard. I do hope you join us for part 2. It's so nice to be able to share my best friend with you all. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Visit www.yorkmotivational.com for more information on my super type A attempt at being Zen, the coaching program, Lead Without Permission, or visit our contact page to reach out to Risha. Wishing you all continued balance and fulfillment on your road to Zen.